Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. You know what? Today we're just going to skip the usual agenda and dive headfirst into the chaotic, completely fascinating journey of how a group of performers went from getting cheap laughs on vaudeville stages to achieving absolute cultural immortality. We are, of course, talking about the architects of American slapstick, the Three Stooges. Let's get into it.
Nyuk, nyuk, nyuk. Man, if you didn't just hear that pitch perfectly in your head, then you haven't fully experienced the absolute chaotic brilliance of Curly Howard. That sound alone instantly hooks you, doesn't it? It perfectly establishes the manic, wildly expressive energy that made the Stooges legendary and just entirely unforgettable.
But hey, before we really get to the faces behind those funny voices, I want you to consider this number, 200. That's right, 200. That represents the staggering volume of comedy short films they pumped out over several decades. We're not talking about a quick flash in the pan here. This is a sheer scale of work that most entertainers in history could literally only dream of achieving.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1. Meet the Stooges, the men behind the mayhem. So, the contrast between their on-screen chaos and their off-screen reality, it's honestly fascinating. Take Mo Howard, for instance. Born Moses Horowitz, he was a vicious tyrant on screen, right? But in real life, he was a strictly organized, responsible leader and a super devoted family man, married to the same woman for over 50 years. Then you have Larry Fine, the guy with the wild hair who always got caught in the crossfire. Off camera, he was actually a really calm, easygoing, and accomplished violinist. He originally took up the instrument to strengthen his arm after a childhood acid accident. And Curly? Well, his wild on-screen persona actually wasn't too far off. He was highly energetic, playful, and possessed this deeply childlike innocence.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Columbia Pictures era, a cinematic rise.
Way back in 1922, the Howard brothers were just grinding away on the grueling vaudeville circuit, working as a supporting act for a comedian named Ted Healy. But the real magic? That sparked in 1932 when Curly replaced his older brother Shemp in the act. They eventually separated from Healy to form their own independent team, and by 1934, they released their very first short films with Columbia Pictures. This was the turning point. This is where they found their permanent home in Hollywood, dropping absolute runaway hits like Men in Black and Punch Drunks.
But to really grasp the sheer magnitude of their rise, we kind of have to look at the historical context. The year was 1934. The Great Depression was absolutely ravaging the United States. So why does this matter? Because for struggling Americans, the Stooges weren't just entertainers, they were a vital necessity. They provided inexpensive laughter and a much-needed, joyful escape from severe economic hardship. Audiences out there desperately needed to see someone else getting knocked down, and more importantly, getting right back up again.
All right, Section 3, Anatomy of the Slapstick. Deconstructing the chaos. Let's break this down.
Their trademark moves were just relentless. We're talking eye pokes, head slaps, face smacks, tumbling downstairs, and just the most ridiculous arguments. The pacing of their physical gags was frantic, yet incredibly precise. Mo was an absolute master at timing these comedic scenes, so they landed perfectly every single time. And what's truly mind-blowing is that they often performed these highly dangerous stunts themselves. Yep, no careful camera trickery here, this was raw, physical dedication to getting the laugh.
And this perfectly illustrates a massive divide in how their work was perceived back then. On one hand, you had these uptight critics who, frankly, totally missed the point. They dismissed the Stooges because they thought the frequent slaps and eye pokes were just way too violent. But on the other side, the fans. The fans deeply understood and celebrated it as exaggerated slapstick. It was this cartoonish, harmless escapism where nobody actually suffered any lasting injuries. Basically, the fans were in on the joke.
Let's slow things down a bit for Section 4, Tragedies and Transitions, the Darker Pivot.
Because while those on-screen injuries were, completely fake, their off-screen reality took a really devastating toll on them. In 1946, Curly, who was really the energetic heart of the trio, suffered a severe stroke. His rapidly declining health forced a sudden, heartbreaking retirement from the screen. Then, less than a decade later, in 1955, his older brother Shemp, who had actually stepped back in to help keep the act going, passed away suddenly.
But look at how they adapted to survive all of this. When Curly had to step away in '46, Shemp bravely returned to fill that massive void. Following Shemp's passing, Joe Besser stepped up in 1956, and then Curly Joe DeRita joined in 1958. These weren't just simple cast changes. It was a profound testament to their incredible resilience.
They were absolutely determined to keep the act and the laughter alive through ongoing devastating tragedy.
Which brings us to our final chapter, Section 5, an enduring comedy legacy, the television resurrection.
Now here is the supreme irony of the whole Three Stooges story. During the massive TV boom of the 1950s and 60s, their old theatrical shorts from the 30s and 40s started airing as television reruns. As TVs became a staple in pretty much every American home, these decades-old shorts made the Stooges way more popular than they had ever been during their original run in theaters. They were suddenly introduced to this massive new generation of kids and families, totally cementing their status as immortal icons.
And that massive explosion in popularity, it created this incredible ripple effect that we literally still feel today. I mean, they directly inspired decades of television sitcoms and cartoon slapstick. Even modern comedy heavyweights like Jim Carrey and Rowan Atkinson have openly admitted how much the Stooges' classic slapstick traditions influenced their own styles. And finally, in 1983, they got some long overdue formal recognition with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.